Hey, church, I'm Sam.
I'm Greg.
And this is another episode of Afterthought where we are reviewing Greg's message from Sunday out of Matthew 23, verses 13 through 39, where he's covering the 7 woes, which is, when you sent out kind of the preaching calendar and I could see like what the text was for the week. For some reason, I thought you were going to like break down each woe specifically, and I was like, man, this is going to be a lot of woes. We're going to be in the woes for a long time. But then when I saw you were doing all of them, I was like,
how do you cover?
Man, that's like a fire hydrant of judgment. Like,
yeah,
man,
how
jeez.
Do you do justice to all of these? Because it could have been a whole series, right?
Yeah, a pretty depressing series, but yeah.
Hey, let's just rip the Band-Aid off all in 1 week.
Yes, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And so I kind of teed up. I gave the preamble to the woes 2 weeks ago and talked a lot about hypocrisy, humility, and about the inside not matching the outside. The outside super clean, looks awesome, looks like you're doing everything right. Inside full of wickedness, darkness, lawlessness, as Jesus will say. One of the woes is attributing to that. I don't know what. Not counting the woes, but verse 25
is number 5 and 6.
Yeah, the inside of the cup versus the outside. So that
the
Jesus,
whitewashed tombs.
Yes, Jesus hints at all of that stuff. But I want to focus on maybe some of the other woes, so that we don't just have the same podcast we did last week.
Well, yeah. Well, let me say at a fundamental level. So, verse 12, where you ended 2 weeks ago, was on humility.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of moving from hypocrisy to humility, moving from the desire to be exalted to the desire to live low, to live humbly. And it's funny that verse 12 says that. Verse 36 or verse 39, where he ends, he's like, hey, you won't see me again until you're saying, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Which means what he's saying is, you will bow to me at some point. You've seen it happen. All of the people of Israel lined up the streets. I'm coming in. I'm being ushered in as king. They're literally saying those words. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And he's quoting that back to him.
Yeah.
He's saying to the Pharisees, hey, listen, you will bow to me at one point, meaning you will be humbled. Because you were exalting yourself. It reminds me of in Gladiator, when Maximus looks at, what was Joaquin Phoenix's name?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I can't remember. But remember, he's standing next to him, and it's when he's first taking off his mask, he realizes who he is, and he says, the time for honoring yourself will soon come to an end.
Yes, I will have my vengeance.
Yes,
yeah.
In this life or the next.
Yes,
That's what he's saying. I mean,
yes.
That's the words of Jesus right there.
Commodus? Yes, I'm so happy that happened, because that was really going to bother me if I didn't think. I would have been thinking about that the entire podcast.
Hey,
so.
I think we need to do an entire podcast just on movies.
Can we watch the movie in real time while we film the podcast?
Oh gosh, yeah.
That would be great. That'd be a great like men's ministry. We do Braveheart and we do Gladiator,
and we're just doing commentary.
Saving Private Ryan.
Come on, dude. Come on.
All right.
Training Day.
Yeah, be on the lookout. King Kong. Yeah.
Ain't got nothing on me.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
All right. So the first woe I kind of want to zero in on is the one where it says, you shut up the kingdom of heaven. This is verse 13, against men, for you neither go in yourselves, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in. That's a pretty heavy statement. When I read that, I think of like that kind of attitudinal disposition that's like, if I can't have it, nobody can have it.
Right.
So.
Well, and they don't even know what they're doing.
No.
I mean, what he's saying is you're so blind, because he calls them blind guides a little bit later. You're so blind to who you are. You have so exalted yourself that you don't realize you're actually holding the door shut for you and everybody that's behind you. And there are people, he says, people that are really wanting to enter, people that are spiritually curious. And you are so full of yourself that you're keeping yourself out and everybody else.
Which kind of makes me wonder, Jesus gets knocked a few times in the Gospels for being a friend to tax collectors, prostitutes, all these people. And Jesus says in the Gospels, like, hey, they're closer to the kingdom than you are to the Pharisees. And part of me wonders, like, are they closer to the kingdom because they're not under the yoke of the Pharisees? So whereas everyone else who's under the yoke of the Pharisees, they're working from a deficit. They have to like unlearn to even break even, then now to enter the kingdom. Whereas these people are like, hey, we're blank slates. Like we'll walk right in.
Hey,
You know,
we know we're broken.
Yeah.
I mean, and I say this a lot, that I believe fundamentally that I was just having lunch with somebody today, and they were describing someone that they're mentoring and talking through their situation. And I said, hey, I would go with this question. What does salvation mean to you? Like, define salvation. I said, because I think they're lost. And, they probably will tell you a story about when they prayed a prayer when they were 14 at youth camp and they were baptized. And then you start looking at the fruit of their life. And, the follow-up question is, what do you think it looks like to follow Jesus? And I think what you're going to find is a whole lot of works, and which is going to tell a story that there's a larger percentage sitting in our body every Sunday morning that are out but think they're in. And as a result, they actually may think they're leading people down a path, but all they're doing is passing on their spiritual baggage to someone else.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And so we run the risk of propagating this brokenness. And if we're not really willing to dig in and receive the way of Jesus so that we can give the way of Jesus, if we're constantly just trying to do, we can be shutting the door to people and not even realize it.
He kind of says something to that in verse 15 where it's like, you travel land and sea to win one proselyte. So that's like, you travel land and sea to just convert one person. And when you've won, you make him twice as much the son of hell as you are.
Right. So what's he saying? You're a son of hell. You don't get it. And now you're actually, you're hurting other people.
They were actually worse off just being plain old lost. Or they were better off just being plain old lost than they were now.
Right.
They're twice the son of hell.
Well, you think about it. Like, think about people that get involved in a cult and how deeply embedded hard it is to get out.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, you were better off when you were just lost, but now you have been misled into a version of spirituality that now has you in bondage. And you see these movies or these documentaries about people who have escaped from cults, and it's like, how could you have given yourself to that in the first place? But then all of the web of trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's really crazy.
Yeah.
So then the next section, verses 16 through 22, it's a lot of stuff that for maybe the average reader, they're like, huh? Because we're just not familiar with like the temple and the temple's artifacts and all that kind of stuff. But he talks a lot about swearing by maybe the ornaments of the temple, but not swearing by the temple itself.
Right. You're swearing by the gold in the temple, but not swearing by the temple. And so how I interpreted it, for the sake of messaging, is it's the law versus the spirit of the law. And it's pretty common for people that are living in compromise that you use the Bible looking for the loophole. So it's not how close to Jesus can I be, but how close to the line can I get without going over? And I use the idea of it's so common in our culture today for people to live together. And, it's like, hey, point to the verse that says you can't live together before you're married. There's no place in the Bible that says that. It does talk about sexual immorality, which would be sex outside of a marriage relationship.
Yeah.
And so, I counsel a lot of couples that live together. And so my first question is, okay, are y'all having sex? And they're like, and of course you are.
Yeah, yeah.
If you are laying in bed with your significant other night after night after night,
It's going to happen eventually.
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Why? Because you've gotten so close to the line. The closer you get to the line, you're destined to step over it.
Yeah.
And so it's fleeing the very appearance of evil. That's in Ephesians 5. That you're setting yourself up for failure when you begin to use the Bible as the guide to loopholes.
Yes.
You know, how can I get out of paying taxes? You know, hey, let me find a CPA that's going to show me all the ways that I can get out of paying taxes.
Yeah.
And for us, we use the Bible so many times is how can I get out of actually living a godly life? You know, and still call it godly. It
Yeah.
doesn't say I can't live with my significant other, then it must be okay. Really. You know, when deep down, we're just poring over Scripture, not for the sake of sanctification, not for the sake of transformation, but for the sole means of justification.
We're wanting to cherry pick proof texts to justify a life that misses, to what you were saying earlier, the spirit of the law, or honestly, like the spirit of the one who wrote the law. Like we're trying to, you know, it's so funny. Sometimes I don't know what the algorithm thinks that I'm into, but sometimes I'll be scrolling on Instagram and I'll get these reels from like these Orthodox Jewish families, and they call
What have you been searching?
they call Sabbath Shabbos, and so they're like, you know, it's against the law to turn a light on Shabbos. So we've created all of these other ways you can go about turning the light on so that you don't break the law. And they have tons of videos that are how to get around the law to still be able to do.
Right, which is that's exactly what.
And I'm
the
like,
Pharisees
guys,
were doing.
like,
yeah,
do you not see, like, you think God's fooled? Like, I don't know. It's just,
and just think about how exhausting that is.
yes.
That
It's more complicated than just don't turn on a light. Like,
Right, yeah.
like instead of installing all of this software and doing all these things, it's like,
or maybe recognize that's kind of a stupid rule to begin with.
yes,
You
yeah.
know, it's like-
I don't think God's all concerned about you turning on a light switch.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, when not working on the Sabbath comes down to me not flipping a light switch, something's wrong.
Well, this goes back to other places in the Gospels where Jesus would heal a sick person on the Sabbath, and he would say, "Hey, if you were walking on the side of the road and your donkey fell into a ditch and it was the Sabbath, would you leave him there? No." Like,
Well, in John 5,
yeah,
man gets healed, picks up his mat. He's been paralyzed for 37 years, and the Pharisees say, "Get back on your mat.
yeah,
We don't care that you've been healed. You can't carry your mat on the Sabbath."
yeah,
It's like, what?
yes,
You can't celebrate with the dude? He wants to do a jig, and you're saying, no, I don't care whether your legs are fixed or not. You can worry about that tomorrow. You can walk tomorrow. It's like, okay, something's really wrong with that.
Yes.
That is jacked up.
yeah. So then let's see, verse 23 through 24. You know, he says that you pay a tithe of mint, anise, cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faith. So they're like so consumed with the little kind of Levitical, very specific laws that they're missing that the law in its entirety is for the purpose of, so that Israel would be you know, all the mission that Jesus talked about the church was supposed to be for Israel. Like, they're a shining city on a hill. Through them, all the world is supposed to be blessed. You're not supposed to get so myopic about the little things that you miss. Like, you know, I was saying this before we started the podcast, that all the things Jesus mentions here are all seasonings for food. And it's like, great. You got the best salt, you got the best pepper, but you undercooked the chicken. So,
And everybody ends up with salmonella.
yeah, it's like, great. You missed the main thing. You messed up the main thing.
Yeah, like he says, you neglect justice, mercy, faithfulness.
Yeah, that's
You know,
kind
I
of
mean,
important.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at it and it's like, okay, so you're first of all, you can't tip God. Like I think in an upper middle class, you know, upperly mobile, we got some money. We'd rather throw money at a problem than actually get our hands dirty.
Yeah, and I
know?
think economically speaking, there's this big thing like where you let your money work for you.
Right.
And so we just bring that over to the church too and just go, well, I don't want to actually be a part. I don't want to spend my time, which is the most valuable resource, doing anything.
Right.
I'll just throw a few $100 at it.
Well, and the truth of the matter is, okay, so as a church, our organization, we're a 501c3. So our whole budget is built off of people's gifts.
yeah, this not to
so-
disparage financial
Yeah,
generosity.
I mean, I'm not saying don't give, but here's the deal. We've got an outside the walls wall in the lobby where on the weekly there are opportunities to really get your hands dirty. And so the question is, the question's not should you give? Of course, that's a spiritual discipline.
Yeah,
That's not the question. The question is should you also
yeah,
invest in justice, mercy, and faithfulness.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You
Yeah,
can't neglect one for the other.
It's not just like, should I give money? It's, should I just give money?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
give everything.
Yeah. It's called partial obedience. And partial obedience is actually disobedience. And all it leads to is a pharisaical life.
Yes. Yeah. I love Jesus. He kind of gives that funny little, like, blind guides, you strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. That and you kind of, I hadn't thought about this, but you tied this to that Sermon on the Mount, the plank and the speck.
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
He's using these two objects to say, hey, look, do you see how stupid it is? You know, it sounds kind of funny, but it's really like, hey guys, really,
Yep.
really.
Yeah, so then he does the verses we talked about earlier about the cup and the tombs. My favorite part of this section is he goes, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tombs of the prophets and adorn the monuments of the righteous, and say, if we had lived in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers of them in the blood of the prophets. Therefore, you are witnesses against yourselves that you are the son of those who murdered the prophets." And this part, fill up then the measure of your father's guilt. I feel like Jesus in that moment is saying, like, all right, the capstone of all of Israel's history of you murdering the prophets, it all comes to the culmination here of you murdering me. It's the parable of the vineyard where the guy sends his servants and eventually he sends his son and they murder his son as well.
It's like, hey, finish what you came to do.
Yeah, exactly.
What you must do quickly.
Yeah, and
you know?
And we all think like, we might not be, and it's not a one-for-one example, but we all think, man, well, if I was in that position, I wouldn't have done that thing. Right. And it's like, well, maybe, but probably you would have.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, realistically, and we look at this today. I mean, even reading these 7 woes, it's real easy to go, oh, the Pharisees. What idiots. You know, I mean, Jesus, the Son of the living God, the Messiah who was promised is standing right in front of you and you don't get it. Yeah, well, the Messiah is standing right in front of us today. Nothing's changed. And we go about our lives in a very convenient, compromising, carnal way and don't acknowledge that the Jesus that we say lives in us. Really? Like I don't know that you can acknowledge the fullness of Jesus living in you and partake in some of the things that we tend to partake in.
Yes, I mean, how many of us have sat and had an encounter with the Lord, whether it be at a church service, First Wednesday, in our own secret place time, and then we go on to live disobedient lives?
Oh, I mean,
all the time.
I mean, and again, I don't want to get into my story because it still happens today. But I know that my professional Christian life, as a worship leader, I was in full-blown compromise all the time. And I would read a chapter like this and be like, idiots.
Yeah.
I can't believe that y'all don't get it.
Yeah.
And here I am in just deep compromise.
And the Spirit's like, it's funny you would say that.
Yeah. Hey, the days of honoring yourself will soon come to an end.
Yes. Yeah. So, obviously, this is a pretty kind of heavy, judgment-oriented passage of Scripture. Jesus finishes it, though, in verses 37, 38, and 39 by kind of pulling the curtain back on the heart behind the intensity with what he's saying. He's being intense, sure, but the intensity is coming from a place of love.
Right.
That he was like, man, I want to gather you together. The thing that you're waiting for, I'm right here. Like, why aren't you just coming to me?
And the law that you're trying to skirt, the law that you're trying to manipulate, I'm the fulfillment of all that.
Yeah. What he says, he's like, Moses wrote about me. Like, hey, I'm the guy, and they won't do it. And so then verse 38 says, see, your house is left desolate. And then obviously in the next chapter, he's going to go into a lot more detail on what that's going to mean.
Right.
But all of the judgment, all the correction, criticism, all of that, it's all coming from a place of love. And I think that's good for us to remember because, Hebrews, it talks about like he disciplines those that he loves. And so a lot of us try to avoid discipline or correction both from other people and from the Lord because we don't know how to take things like that. We take it as like we're not loved. But really,
right.
we wouldn't receive correction if we weren't loved. And so every time we feel convicted by the Spirit, it's not supposed to be something that leads us to shame. Like, God doesn't expose things to shame us, He exposes things to heal us. And so I think it's really important.
I just think about when I am pointing out something where there's a character issue or something in someone's life, I'm not doing it. Like, if I didn't care, I just wouldn't say anything. I would just think, well, that's their problem.
Yeah, have fun and see how that goes.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, the only reason that I bring any of it up is because I care. And Jesus is basically saying, hey, all of these things, man, turn. He actually, again, he is a living, breathing prophet, is mirroring all the prophets throughout the Old Testament that God sent over and over and over and over. And he's saying, you killed them one by one. And it was all the mercy of God over hundreds of years trying to protect you from captivity. And here I am right now. I'm trying to rescue you from captivity. The captivity of religion, the captivity of being bound up. I want to free you. And look at where it's left you. Yeah, your house is desolate. You're still in captivity.
Yeah.
You've just moved from one captive to another. You know, and
That's
that was the story of the Israelites. We just moved from one crappy circumstance to another crappy circumstance.
Yeah, it's true. So, for those who are watching this podcast, how do you integrate this week's text and go, okay, like, how do I apply that to my life? I mean,
yeah. Well, first of all, hopefully it's a wake up call.
yeah,
It's like sometimes we need some smelling salts to be reminded, oh, wait, this is me. If we're willing to look at a passage through self-examination, then we can see, hey, man, because I said it Sunday, but man, I've been a part of all 7 of these.
yeah,
You know, on any given day. You know, and so it's a reminder to me, really, that holiness matters. But I think when we hear the word holy, we immediately can.
we think about it like Pharisees.
Yeah, we can get pharisaical. That, oh, I'm called to holiness.
Real
Now,
moralistic, you know.
now I need to look holy, and when I'm not, I need to hide it. You know, when we see holiness as a rules based, you know, when in reality, you know what holiness is? Holiness is showing up every day in the secret place and saying to the Lord, hey, without you today, I'm nothing. You know, you're the vine, I'm the branch.
Yeah.
I have to receive my sustenance from you. That in itself, it's holiness. Because I'm saying to him, hey, listen, I know I've got impurities in my life. I've got pursuits in my life. I've got agendas in my life. And today, every day, I've got to lay that down and say, today, I choose your agenda. Please speak to me. Please walk with me, because I don't have a shot otherwise.
Yeah.
You know, left to my own devices, I will be a Pharisee every day for the rest of my life. So I'm choosing the way of Jesus every day. I don't choose it, you know, when I pray a prayer when I'm 14
Yep.
and say, did it, you know, now I'll just wait for heaven when I die. It's you know, I've been saved and I'm being saved every single day. That's why Paul talks about working out his salvation with fear and trembling. We got to choose Jesus every day.
Yeah.
And in every moment. You know, I mean, it's kind of that, okay, it needs to become, so think about, it needs to become a reflex.
Yeah.
And reflexes happen over time.
There's a book, his name's Frank, his last name starts with an L, but it's a really thin book, but he was a missionary to the Philippines, I think it was, in like the early 1900s. And it's a diary over the course of like 5 or 10 years. And his goal is to the diaries start off by saying like, I want to focus on Jesus like once a day, just like zero in once a day. And then as the years progress, it goes from a day to once an hour, to once every 30 minutes, to once every 15 minutes. And then by the end of it, it's like every second I want to live my life where I'm constantly like turned to him. And it might, for those of us who are like production oriented, task oriented, that's like, well, that doesn't sound very efficient. But he writes in the book about how like it's funny how everything else in my life has fallen into place when I can stay there. Everything else just kind of works itself out.
In the book Walking with God by John Eldredge, I had a discipleship group read this a couple of years ago, and somebody came back because he talks about he gets to a crossroads and he's like, well, do I turn left or do I turn right? Mm-hmm. And somebody's like, okay, that's not realistic. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's spoken from a person that you just want enough of Jesus. I want enough of Jesus for a broad template, but then I'll take it from there, Or somebody that says, well, I come to church once a week, I'm in a life group, and I come on first Wednesdays.
Yeah.
That's enough church for me. And it's like, well, is it? I guess the proof is in a transformed life.
Well, the thing when you say that passage about the book, what it says to me is, God, I'm including you in even the most trivial decisions in my life.
Yeah, because the truth of the matter, Jesus probably says, you pick.
Yeah. But if I think that Jesus isn't concerned about the trivial decisions, and I'm just, Lord, you're only concerned with the macro, I'll handle the micro. Well, I'll end up being the Lord of my life.
Well, and the problem is, all of the little micro decisions lead to the macro decisions. And
yes.
Next thing you know, I'm making a life or death decision when it's really, if I allow him to handle the macros take care of themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good landing spot for today's podcast, church. I think this has given me a lot to chew on. I hope it's given you a lot to chew on. I hope it's been equipping and encouraging for you. And we'll see you next week on the next episode of Afterthought.
See you later.
See ya.